Hello everyone and welcome back to Killershrewfan's 12 Days of Reviews. I hope all of you are doing quite well on this, Day 8 of Killershrewfan's 12 Days of Reviews. We are nearing the end and I am just so excited, and since we're getting closer and closer to the end of our 12 Days of Reviews, that means we're also getting closer and closer to 2019. And in order to celebrate that, I thought it would be fun to bust out yet another new for 2019 Safari Limited dinosaur toy. And it is, of course, this guy, Safari Limited's new Carnotaurus figure. Now, as many of you know, this is not like officially a 2019 release because it has been given to us early by Safari Limited. They, in all of their greater knowledge, see fit to bestow these models to us a little earlier in the year, or a little later in the year of 2018, even though they're technically part of their 2019 lineup. I'm sure they do that for holiday sales. They want to get these out so that way consumers can get them under the tree for kids or just as little gifts to themselves. I do the latter. So yeah, this one is part of their 2019 lineup that came to us a little early. Thank you for that, Safari Limited. And as many of you know, Carnotaurus is my absolute favorite dinosaur. It is far and away my favorite species. I own so many models of it. Every time I see a new rendition of it is going to be released, I always get very excited. And so when I saw that Safari Limited would be doing a Carnotaurus for 2019, I was pretty stoked. Unfortunately, what we got is kind of a mixed bag for me, and I'm going to tell you why. But before we do that, we got to do everyone's favorite part and unbag this sucker. So without further ado, let's do this. Everyone's favorite part, Safari Limited's bags are really simple. Just at the back, you get a quick tear and slide. And there is our Carnotaurus. What a beauty. Out of the bag, it looks absolutely fantastic. Just first impressions, I love the bulk of it. This is a very bulky figure, and I think that is so awesome. It's one of the reasons that I think I enjoy this figure as much as I do, and I will get into the qualms of it later on, but just first impressions of it, I really do like the size of this Carnotaurus. As you can see, he does come with a plastic tray, as do many of Safari's figures, to keep those legs from warping during transit. I just take that away, set him down, and he stands pitch perfectly on my little review space here. And now I think it's time we give you guys a closer look at this model. Alright, let's do this. So starting off with the head of this Carnotaurus, as you can see, Safari Limited went ahead and gave this Carnotaurus lips, which is an interesting feature. And you can also see the teeth poking out from the lips. Unfortunately, they are not individually sculpted and do just sort of mesh together, but beyond that, the usual level of Safari Limited detail is present on this head, with subtle scaling, wrinkles, folds of skin. All of that has been addressed here on the Carnotaurus, and I will say that I really like the eye on this Carnotaurus. Usually they just go for like a golden eye with a black pupil. Here they have chosen to add green, and that really makes it pop and gives it a new kind of life. The infamous Carnotaurus horns have been sculpted onto the head. They are a good length, and the placement is quite good. Unfortunately, they're kind of lacking in texture, but that's just kind of what we've come to expect from Safari Limited when dealing with horns and whatnot. While we're on the subject of the head, I want to talk about the snout. I will say that it's got a good sort of depth to it. It does have that classic sort of smushed up Carnotaurus jaw going, but unfortunately when you look at it from the front view, it feels very, very thick. I know Carnotaurus is known for very thin jaws, but unfortunately here it feels like it is a very beefy skull, which is kind of unfortunate for this particular reconstruction. Moving down the body, you can see you've got lovely folds of skin in the neck as the creature turns its head to look slightly to the right, and once you hit the midsection, you can see lovely bags of skin as the thigh pushes forward, wrinkling the skin up against each other, and down around the gut there, you've got more lovely folds of skin. The scaling on this body is so gorgeous. It's so finite and small, but it is so easy to see even from a distance, which is awesome. And as you can see, you've got the famous Carnotaurus bumps and ridges going down the entire length of the body, all the way to the tip of the tail, as does the small, subtle scaling. And like I said, it's just beautiful. Moving back up the opposite side, it's a lot of the same story in terms of the detail with the scaling and the ridges and bumps. You've got less folds of skin around the thigh here as the back left leg is bracing against the ground, but you do have a lovely area where the skin is kind of flexing away from the body there. And then we come back up to the head of the Carnotaurus, and like I said, it looks pretty good in profile, just not so great from the head-on stuff. Taking a look at the inside of the mouth, you can get a better look at the teeth and the situation they're in, and all of the details as Safari Limited sculpted into the mouth. Moving down the underbelly, you can see more of the scaling and whatnot. It seems a little haphazard. Some areas are scaled, some are not. And then there's also this really abrupt transition of color that just makes it feel like the paint scheme is incomplete. Like it goes from gray to like a rose color, which is really off-putting to the eye. Not that the color's bad, it's just the fact that it's such an abrupt transition. But anyway, if we move along the bottom, you can see back here you do have the Safari Limited logo and a cloaca, which is always a nice detailing. And then at the bottom of the tail, you can see you've even got more of the bumps and ridges, which start just past the cloaca and continue all the way down to the tip of the tail. Looking at this thing from an aerial view, I will say I love how thick it is. It is a very beefy and meaty dinosaur, which gives the predator a great bulk and makes it look quite intimidating. Taking a look at the foot here, it is incredibly bird-like. The toes are nice and stubby, but the ankle is nice and long, and there's some lovely wrinkles around the ankle where the skin is pressing up as the creature braces itself. I love the calf on this thing. It looks so incredibly powerful. It is bulging with muscles as the creature propels itself forward, and then you've got some lovely wrinkles and bags of skin along the thigh where the knee is bending, and some lovely musculature in the thigh there as well. The other foot is really the same story. It's bracing, the back left foot is bracing against the ground, and the toes are splayed, which give this thing a great sense of weight. And again, the calf looks incredibly powerful and taut, which is absolutely awesome to see. The musculature in these legs really give this figure a sense of power, and I think that is a commendable aspect of this model overall. Now for the arms. The arms are a little bit wonky on this Carnotaurus. Even for how small they are, they still feel a little big, which is weird to say, but it's true. And even if the arms weren't too big, the hands definitely are. And I get that they probably had to scale it up just for molding purposes. It probably made it easier to cast if the hands were a little bigger, but my goodness, they're just huge for Carnotaurus. It looks like he's wearing Mickey Mouse gloves at the end of those stubby little arms, which is just a little off-putting to me. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm bothered by the hands on this thing. As far as the posing goes, it is incredibly active. You've got the Carnotaurus taking a stride forward, turning its head to the right as if sizing up with a prey item or in pursuit of a prey item, something like that. It's very fluid and lifelike, but nothing too out there, which is something Safari Limited does quite well. I will say, unfortunately, mine seems to be having issues with its stability overall. As time's gone by, it's already starting to have balancing issues, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, it might just be the surface area, but it would be something I would definitely look out for on your Carnotaurus down the line. As far as the paint scheme goes, I do enjoy it for the most part. The sort of yellowish green or cream color on the main body, striped by this sort of dorsal brown that branches out from the back and kind of patterns this thing, is quite gorgeous. I do like all of this. This is really cool to look at. It feels very natural. It feels like they definitely referenced real-world animals for this, and I love how it gradiates from the brown to the cream. It's not just like hard lines. There's some gradation in there. But unfortunately, all of that is compromised by the really weird color transition to the head. I will say I like kind of the purplish orangish color that they got going on the back of the neck and whatnot. That doesn't seem too far off, but unfortunately the bright orange that they chose to apply to the head here really distracts me from the overall color scheme. I mean, it's so vibrant in comparison to the rest. It immediately demands your attention, and not in a good way either. It just is kind of distracting, and it works as a detriment to the overall color scheme of this Carnotaurus. Like I said, the body is great, and then the back of the neck is okay with the sort of more vibrant, like the reddish orangish, brownish coloration going on, but then there's that splash of orange just below the horns and around the eye that is just way too bright for my taste on this Carnotaurus. It clashes with the rest of it. As far as the size on this Carnotaurus goes, it is quite a good size for what this theropod is. In fact, it measures roughly 10 inches or 10 1/4 inches, which is about 26 centimeters from the tip of the snout to the back of the tail. And if we get a measurement for height here, which the highest point is the back of the neck, you're looking at right around 3.5 inches or 3 3/4 inches, which is about 9.5 centimeters, if I can get him to stand. There you go. 9.5 centimeters off the ground. There we go. He's down again. For size comparison, we're going to go ahead and bring in the, we're going to start off by bringing in the Papo iteration of the Carnotaurus, and the Papo iteration of the Carnotaurus, and as you can see, the Safari Limited version is a bit taller than it, but that's probably because of Papo's drastic pose. If that thing was in a standing position, it wouldn't quite be as short. I feel like it would size up a little better, but they are similar in terms of the overall length. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the classic Carnegie iteration of the Carnotaurus, and if you want my opinion, this Carnegie version is still the best Carnotaurus model out there. I know Safari Limited tried this year, but this Carnegie version, it's bigger, the patterning is more appealing to the eye, the paint scheme is just overall better, and it feels more accurate to the overall dinosaur. I get that it's a tripod figure, but beyond that, I really think it takes the cake of these three. Next up, we've got our good friend Chris Pratt, who is standing in next to this Carnotaurus. He had a run-in with one of these in Fallen Kingdom, so I thought this was a good size comparison. Unfortunately, this one doesn't really work if you're going for like a movie kind of thing, but it does work. It's pretty close to what we expect from Carnotaurus. The Carnotaurus could be bigger. Maybe this works well as a juvenile sort of thing, but I do like how they're kind of seeing each other eye to eye. I think that's kind of a cool situation. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and bring in the Styracosaurus figure, which was recently reviewed on the channel. It's also new for 2019, and hopefully if you have that one already, you can get a good idea on the size that you can expect out of the Carnotaurus. These two size up pretty closely with each other in terms of length and height. Well, everyone, that is going to do it for our look at the new for 2019 Safari Limited Carnotaurus. Overall, this is definitely a Safari Limited figure. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that it's got some really cool sculptural details. The paint scheme is definitely vibrant and eye-catching, and for the most part, it's pretty accurate to the overall species. Unfortunately, Safari Limited decided to make some final decisions with this one that would overall cripple the model and its appeal. The bright orange coloration on the head is a decision that I just can't get behind, and some of the proportions, particularly in the thickness of the skull and the size of the hands, are definitely working against the overall integrity of this figure. All of that being said, I think I'm still willing to give this figure a solid 7 out of 10. I do love Carnotaurus, so that might be affecting my rating on this thing, but overall, I am glad to have this one, and it's great to see Safari Limited bringing back my favorite dinosaur. As always, I would love to hear what you guys think of this model. Do you own it yet? Are you going to pick it up? What are your thoughts on it? What is your favorite iteration of the Carnotaurus in toy form? All of your thoughts, leave them down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed our review today, don't be afraid to let us know by hitting that like button, and don't forget to subscribe on the way out so you don't miss the rest of Killershrewfan's 12 days of reviews. Alright, thanks again so much for tuning in, everyone. That's going to do it for us today. Killershrewfan out.